Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, but today is important because I changed the show. I changed the show after hearing from a friend this morning and talking some issues with regards to what is really going out there in the ethos. What are people hearing? What are people being told? What are they having to absorb in their minds right now? And how is that, and how could that possibly not only affect the elections, but affect the choices that we make in the elections out of fear? Well, today's show is to tell you all these things. Do not have any fear, and do not fall for what the Republicans have calculated. They have calculated that the American people are wusses. They have calculated that you are fearful. They have calculated that you're not very smart upstairs. They have calculated that, you know what, we can tell you anything and then you will believe it. And you know why they're saying that? You know why they're telling us that? They're telling us that because it is currently working. And why does it work? Why does it work? Let me tell you why it works. It works because we don't have enough people sharing real information. We don't have enough people who are bucking the system. We don't have enough people who are saying, hey, don't care what somebody calls you. Don't care what they say about you. You care about one thing and one thing only: humanity. You must worry about one thing only: how to better your fellow man. That is all it's all about. And if you do that, ultimately, we win. Remember that. That is important. What these guys are doing are they're throwing out fear tactics. They're doing it. They're giving you false theories. They're giving you all things that are not true because of one thing. They realize that Americans are starting to realize that the game is on them. Americans are starting to realize that they have been used. Americans are starting to realize all these things. Don't ever not think that eventually folks doesn't wake up. It happens all over the world. We are no different than any other country. We are not a different people and people under duress anywhere, or we won't under duress behave differently than anybody. You know, it is funny how right now we are attacking Venezuela. It is amazing how right now we're talking about socialism in Venezuela and how it has destroyed that country, etc. Well, you know what? There is something destroying the fabric of America right now. There is something destroying us right now in America. I ask you to do one thing, look at your pocketbook. Please do. Look at your savings. Look at your 401k. The stock market is zooming. And they're telling you how great the economy is doing because the stock market is zooming. If you are not in the top 10%, if you are not one of the classes that have a whole lot of stocks in your portfolio, please take a look at your personal economy. Please do. It is important that we do that. Because when they start lying to you, when they start telling you all these bad things that are going to happen, if those people that get elected are the ones who really want to give you what you have earned and what has been taken from you for all this time. I want you to look at yourself. I want you to look at your personal economy. I don't want you to just go ahead and say, listen to what people tell you. Don't listen to what I tell you. Don't listen to what Fox News tells you. Don't listen to what MSNBC tells you. Today I was so disappointed in MSNBC. They had a panel on, and had it not been from I don't remember the name of the person on the show, They were just putting down, oh, the Democrats are moving too left, and they have to move to the center. And these are all people on MSNBC talking about moving to the center. And one guy said, what has moving to the center done for us thus far? The reason why Americans don't go with Democrats when they should is because they don't see that conviction. They don't see somebody who's out there that's going to work for them. They don't see somebody who believes in what they're saying. But you know what? When they talk about you can't do the things that we want to do, it is not true. If we have the will, the monies, and everything else is there for us to do it. Folks, this is a call-in show, and I'd like to hear from you. 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. We need to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. But, you know, what I want to do is get started with the show. I had to have my entry into what I think are some issues. But a friend of mine gave me a couple of statements today that really concerned me and said, you know what? We have to hit this problem head on. We have to talk about what they are doing, attempting to do to Democrats head on, and we have to embrace what's going on head on. And how do we do that? We do that just with the facts. And it's not enough facts, but we personalize this thing, right? Because what people, when they say, oh, socialism, what they're saying is, be fearful. They're not saying, what is it that I'm going to do for you? What is it that I'm going to do to make life better for you, not only today, but tomorrow? What am I going to do to make life better for your kids? One of the reasons I'm doing this is because I have kids. One of the reasons, or I have a kid, one of the reasons I'm doing this is because you have kids. And you know what? When we are old, we're going to depend on having kids who have the wherewithal to move forward. And right now, what we're doing is we're crippling those who come after us. How many kids are living with their parents right now that are 25, 30 years old, and why? Is it their fault? A lot of people say, oh, those kids are weenies. No, they're not. We have an extractive system that's put them there. I mean, you can say, oh, they didn't work as hard as we did. That's not true. That is definitely not true. I work with young people. These people are hard workers, but the thing about it is, what are they working for? What are they working for? What can they see going forward? I remember my daughter telling me something one time that she had in a round table with some other kids, and she said, you know what? You know why kids, they go and even if they're out, they spend as much as they can, even if they're spending what they don't have, because they don't think there's anything left for them afterwards. So why not have some fun now while they can? And then later on to throw up their hands and see what happens, see what flies. That is a kind of mentality that a lot of younger millennials have. And you can't, what we're asking of them, how can they not think that way? What have we done for them? A lot of people want to say, oh, we're dealing with ageism. And no. That's not the case at all, folks. That's not the case. So let's go ahead and get this program started. I didn't kind of power up here, so let me go ahead and get my initial piece out. Okay, here we go. Title of the show today is Democrats Swing into the Socialism Attacks as You Promote Real American Wants and Values Unapologetically. I repeat, Democrats swing into the socialism attacks as you promote real American wants and values unapologetically. Those people who fear saying democratic socialism say, oh, why don't say it all the time. Just go ahead and say what you want to do. And that's what I say as well. If I'm talking to people on the outside, I am telling people about the policies that I want, that I know they've asked for. If you take a look at when polls are done, the different items that they want, whether it be Medicare for all, meaning everybody has coverage for health care, whether it's been pay it forward universities, which means you can go to college and not be in debt for the rest of your life. Also things like having debt forgiveness. After all, the reason why all these kids are in a whole lot of debt has, they'll try to say, oh, well, it's a school's fault, etc., etc. No. It is our continual decline in wanting to pay taxes to invest in our future. It's a selfish kind of analogy. It's a selfish kind of tenet that we've had since Reagan. That's the real problem. It's a selfish tenet that we've had since Reagan, and that is what we are having to mitigate. Okay, the subtitle of the show is, at some time in our lives, one must take a stance, eventually abandoning an abusive spouse when it is clear change is not forthcoming. Capitalism as we know it, unfettered capitalism as practiced today in America, has failed. And we don't have to ask the question, oh, really? Oh, well, how comes the economy is doing so well? The fact that somebody can look at you today and tell you how well our economy is doing based on the aggregate numbers tells you that it is failing. Because if it is doing that well and people's wages have not gone up, if it's doing that well and students are in so much debt, if it's doing that well and over 50 million people are without health care, if it's doing that well, and yesterday when I went to Indivisible Houston, Texas 02 meeting, most there complain about, in as much as they have health insurance, how difficult, how expensive it is for them to get care. So folks, I don't want to hear about how great the economy is, because it is an aberration that in the totality, in the aggregate, the economy is doing well. But when we looked at individuals, again, I ask you what I asked in the beginning of the show. Please, please, please go to your bank account. If you have investments, go to your portfolio. Take a look at it. Extrapolate it over the years. Extrapolate that a crash is forthcoming, because those people who rip you off all of the times make sure and take their money out at the high of the market and continue to sing its praises on CNBC, even as they know deep inside it's based on nothing. A crash is coming. And then you, the sucker, get held with the bill. Get the losses. That is how our system works. That is how it works. Okay? So what I want to do is continue with the entrance, and it goes as follows. At some time in our lives, one must take a stance, eventually abandoning an abusive spouse when it is clear change is not forthcoming. Capitalism has failed. The type we're practicing has failed. As much as the numbers look good, the individual economies of the most are not well, but the economy of a few are explodingly well. Democratic socialism is a proven answer. You doubt it? They want you to look at Venezuela. They want you to look at Cuba. They want you to look at all these other places. I say look at Switzerland, look at Denmark, look at happiness indices around the world. Look at Canada. Let's look at places that we can really see some symmetry between those places and America, bar our healthcare system, bar our safety net, bar these other issues. These things exist. We don't have to ask about it, but Americans are in such bad shape. Americans don't travel enough to see the rest of the world. America doesn't, it's amazing. When we did Occupy Kingwood, we did an Occupy Kingwood. Think about this, Occupy Kingwood, occupying a very red area. We did it for 52 consecutive weeks on a corner of a street every weekend. And we would have the jeers and the people giving us a hard time, etc. But a woman came to me one time while we were there talking, and I have a video of it on camera. I should have had that video ready. And she said, I was in Germany, and I went to the hospital, and it cost me, I don't remember, $20 or so for her to get seen. And, she paid something like $5 for the medicine. And guess what? When I got back to the United States, Germany sent me $1.04 or something like that, she said, because they overcharged me by mistake for the medicine. It was so easy. They weren't asking me for papers. They weren't asking me for this. They weren't asking me for that. there's a time I was traveling to the Democracy Convention in where was this? I remember in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. I went to a Democratic convention there. I spoke at the convention, and I happened to be on a plane with a woman from where? From Germany, and it's interesting because we were talking to a guy from Spain. I think it was a woman from Germany didn't understand me, so we use Spanish as a common language. One person was speaking to her guy in Spanish. I spoke to the guy in Spanish, and she spoke in German. So she said her things in Spanish to the guy. And he translated to English. I spoke to him in Spanish, and he translated back. So I mean, we had that kind of a conversation. So anyhow, it turns out that she said, you know, what's wrong with America? It seems like it's so easy what we're doing in Germany and it works. Why don't they kind of follow what we're doing? And my answer to her is I really didn't have an answer. But I knew what the answer was, but I mean, I don't think she would understand the political dynamics of the United States. And the political dynamics of the United States is we practice a capitalism that is very extractive, one that is very selfish, one that says, you know what, when you look at what our Supreme Court said, the sole purpose of the corporation of the executives within the corporation is to maintain the fiduciary responsibilities of the shareholders, not the people, not the employees, not the people they serve. You do whatever is necessary to make sure that your employees are A-OK. That is the definition of our form of capitalism today. That means you are not included. You are a byproduct. You are, when they need you, they need you. When they don't, they don't. And then at the same time that they want to have that flexibility, they do not want to give you a solid governmental safety net. In other words, they don't want to pay taxes to support that which they don't want. So, I changed my topic today based on a conversation with a friend. After that conversation, it became clear to me that progressives need to get more proactive in defending policies that support the poor and middle class. They must not take a defensive posture for fear of the word socialism. Our feet will be much harder because those who hold power as commanded by the Powell Manifesto have infiltrated every aspect of our lives to ensure they remain in an indoctrinated state, fooled into the false belief that all have equal access to success. They want you to believe, I'm coming to you in a minute, 314. They want you to believe that you, my average American citizen, has equal access to success. That could not be further from the truth. As I have mentioned in past shows, most Americans have the aptitude and intellect to be successful. Most work hard, but this economy only affords the ultimate success to the chosen. Do not ever believe it is solely your work. Never believe it is solely your work. Believing it is solely your work is a figment of your imagination. And later on, I'm going to give a little bit of my story, which I chose to change because I saw the light. Now, was it a smart move? It was an unselfish move. I would be, well, I'll explain that a bit later in the narrative. You know what? Before I go to my blog of the week, let me bring the caller in because they may change the direction or whatever. Caller from 314, please come on in.
Well, you know, by the way, how are you doing? Hope your family is fine.
Hey, how you doing, my friend? I think I recognize your voice.
Yeah, my name is Pianki.
Yeah, Pianki.
I agree with you in the way I'm happy you changed your direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I like capitalism myself.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I can tell you that would help
Mm-hmm.
disadvantage, and I'm going to say young children that's coming out of households
Mm-hmm.
that we want to call disadvantaged
Mm-hmm.
is school choice
Okay.
in these public schools,
Mhm.
especially school choice with vouchers,
Mm-hmm.
where the parents have the opportunity to put their child in the environment that best suits their overall long-term goals for that child.
Okay.
Now, of course, that's not going to solve all of the students, but the thing is, man, I, work with some organizations like NESB, National Society of Black Engineers.
Mm-hmm.
You have some children that's coming from homes, even though those homes are poor, or should I say in poverty,
Mm-hmm.
the parents continue to do the right thing as far as trying to nurture that child and develop that child to the best that they possibly can, exposing them to a variety of things, trying to recognize within that child an inner ability that would take them into a certain direction, certain profession. And I think that should be done early. And it does happen. But these children are sitting in classrooms where they are bored because they are not being challenged due to the fact they are amongst other students
Mm-hmm.
whose parents doesn't have that same type of dedication. And no one thing fits all.
Right.
And we can see it when we look at the presence of African American in so many different categorical professions where you don't see them at all, and there is a demand.
Okay. Let me first address that because I think you're coming from my personal opinion is that you're coming from a good spot. What I mean is, I think you and I identified that problem of schools exactly the same. I think we do. Our solutions are different, and I can tell you, I understand your desire based on knowing. I like to call you mostly almost a libertarian, but based on the way your thought process, right? In my opinion, in my humble opinion, what you're saying is that the current school system is failing our kids, and what you want is a whole lot of choices for people to have so that they can go ahead and put child in A, B, C school that best suit them. But number one, here's my problem with that. I would sort of give your suggestion a test under one condition. And I am completely against vouchers because I think they extract dollars from the public system. And I think education should be something in the public domain because, again, we're talking about something for the country. Now, that said, I would be willing to take you up on one portion of your idea, and that is have different options. And if these options don't have a profit motive, meaning that they are altruistic, I am for it. In other words, let's say you have a school that is a nonprofit. Many schools that are out there with great ideas that don't have the profit motive, that pays the teachers a good salary, that does all these things. I will give you that. I would allow that. Here's a problem, Bianchi, and that I see a lot of times with folks on the right. They want to do that, but that is I think you want to do it for a noble reason, but most in your domain do not. Most of the people who want these vouchers and want these schools, they use the sorry state of the black schools. When I say black schools, I mean schools in black areas as a reason to do it. And here's what usually happens. You get a whole lot of black entrepreneurs or Latino entrepreneurs in those particular areas. They throw up a school that has no better results than the public school because the inherent problem is not the schools. The inherent problem is the entire environment. We have a system where property taxes in one area determines how good that school is going to be. I think that's wrong. I think we should have a
Well, I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you that you do have these for profits like your Imagine,
Mm-hmm.
your Beacon. I don't think they're around anymore. Edison, and the results that came out was no different than what it was in the public schools.
Exactly.
But those aren't the type of schools that I'm talking about,
I
and I don't
know
know how
that.
you would
I know that.
filter them out. I can make mention of like the St. Louis Construction Training School
Mm-hmm.
is a charter school,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not just talking about charter school. We're talking about any school, but just for the convenience.
Right.
You have aerospace charter school. It's going to be this going to cost a little bit more to operate a school like that because they have real airplanes
Right.
where they fly. I mean, it's costly. So it's things like, did you know that down in the Delta you have baseball schools? I mean, think about that. So these are specialized schools
And
that's directly preparing children for the market demand, like, for instance, in aviation, where there's a shortage of over 400,000 pilots that's coming up or already in place. So those are the type of schools
I am.
talking
Look,
about.
Bianchi, I am with you. Okay, listen, and here is where I think if people are really interested in the children and not ideology, compromises can be made. I imagine some teachers would not want to have anything like that. What I would like to see is I'd like to see innovation, and innovation does not, unlike what most people believe, innovation does not have to come from the private sector. Most of the drug innovations didn't come from the private sector. It came from the public sector. Every drug that saves lives today, the vast majority of them, came from the public sector. You know why? Because the public sector does not have that incentive solely to succeed. In other words, if you're a company built on that you have to protect your shareholders, you don't take risks, okay? And that is what I find so amusing about capitalism, right? We always talk about, well, the reason why we treat capital differently is because they take risks. Well, in today's capitalism, no, they don't take risks. They buy companies that are already successful. They buy drugs that already have proven some level of success, and that is it. We don't really have free enterprise that I don't even like to consider capitalism as a viable system. I like free enterprise. I like democratic socialism for things like education and hospitalization and that sort of stuff. But I like true free enterprise. What you do, if I remember correctly, you're in construction. If I remember correctly, what you do.
Yes, still erection.
What you do is free enterprise. And the beef that I have with guys like you, my friend, is that you somehow think that it's your own company. Is that correct? Is it a LLC or something, or maybe a S corp or something like that?
It's a corporation.
There you go. And
Yes, it was.
now, the thing about it is that's a real intent of what business was supposed to be. If you take a look at, we did a documentary called Legalized Democracy. We identify what the original intent of corporations, the original intent of business, what they were supposed to be. They weren't supposed to be these megalomaniacs that are out there that are ripping the average American off and ripping you off to some extent. It's just that you're at a different level than most Americans, but you're getting ripped off yourself. And go ahead.
Well, I was just listening.
Oh,
I wasn't ready to cut in yet.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Well,
keep on.
yeah. Well, I can keep on with. But anyhow, the topic of the discussion today, though, Bianchi, is this: I want the perfect separation between the public sector and the private sector. And what I think we have now is something that's bifurcated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on hold, get to my blog of the week, and then we come back to you. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Now, folks, do you know? I wanted to take the call before I got into the blog of the week because, well, I didn't want to keep Bianchi holding too long. Anyhow, do you know what time it is? And that's the wrong one. Do you know?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, a friend of mine was talking about having someone in her family being spoken to, somehow. I don't know how to. Let me see how to say this right. Well, anyhow, the socialism mantra has had an effect. by accusing them of socialism or democratic socialism, it has had them an effect on them. So I decided to change the subject, sort of, and came up with a short. I'm not done writing this thing here, but I'm going to go ahead and read what I'm done so far, and then I'm going to elaborate on the things that I want to talk about. So here it goes. The title of the blog is Democrats Do Not Cower to Socialism Attack. Attack ills of the current system. Attack what's wrong within the current system. That is how you fight. You don't fight by saying somehow, oh my God, no, I'm not you're a socialist. Oh no, I'm not a socialist. Yes, you are a socialist. Don't fight like that. Don't allow them to say that. Don't allow them to redefine what you want. You know, they go ahead and they pull the dictionary out and they say socialism, all resources of production controlled by the state. Or everything controlled by the state. That's slave. No, that's not it. And the reason they like to use Venezuela and Cuba is because after they've assisted a corrupt government in failing and how bad it has failed, they want you to believe that that is a definition of socialism. How badly has Venezuela failed? Horrendously bad. Why? Because of a corrupt government, because their plutocracy decided not to produce, and 3, because America has had sanctions on them. 4, we have a ton of their money sitting in American banks from all the Citgos. All those Citgos that you see there that are selling gas, that money belongs to Venezuela. But they don't see it. Okay? So if you want to ask about democratic socialism at all, take a look at Denmark. Take a look at Norway. Take a look at these places. Now, the first thing people are going to say is, oh, but those are small countries. So what? You scale. In fact, don't we say that if you build more of something, it is generally less expensive? That's the same thing. America can scale much better than Norway can. But we don't. And, you know, the truth of the matter is we don't have to ask these questions anymore. Look at the numbers. Look at how the wealth is distributed in this country. It's not distributed based on worth. It's distributed out based on the design of an economy that extracts. It's designed to take more than your fair share. That's how the arithmetic works on it. It's not even very complex arithmetic at that. You know, you don't have to do much to be wealthy. I remember all the time hearing, you know, you watch all these shows at sometime at 1 or 2 in the mornings, and there's always somebody out there trying to show you how they can make your money work for you. You don't have to do anything. Now think about that. Let your money work for you. How different is that from the guy who is smart enough, and notice I put smart in quotes, to just let welfare work for him or her? Let your money work for you. In other words, you use your money and somebody else does the work and you profit. Make the money work for you. How different are you than any other Lao? Somebody give, and especially let's say you're a wealthy person. Most of the wealthy passes their wealth down, and a lot of the super wealthy, that's where their wealth come from. It's not like they earned it. And they allow their money to work for them. In other words, they are not doing the work. The mere fact that they have money means that they can succeed. Remember that for the next part of the discussion. But anyway, here we go. The right and the center are trying to use socialism as an instrument of fear to deny Americans what the Constitution demands, their welfare. The preamble of the Constitution is clear. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves, our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States. And my contention is that after defense, we've ensured nothing. That's my contention. Since Ronald Reagan, our economic system has veered away from the tenets of the Constitution. What we have is a democratic facade. What we have is a system that pretends to be a meritocracy when in reality it is a system of the chosen on every level. And I'm going to explain what chosen means. We are not a democracy. We are an indoctrinated people who even as we see our personal economies in dire straits, we want to believe fallacies designed to keep us yearning. They tell you if you work hard enough, you will be successful. If you follow our markets, you will always rise. If you invest in the markets and just keep your money there, in the long run, you'll do fine. But what happens when it just all disappears? Think Enron. I know so many people who lost all of their capital because we have a system, a capitalist system in which the game, people can say the games, a lot of guys went to jail for forging documents and all that kind of stuff with Enron. But Enron just got caught. All the companies whose stocks are zooming, there is no reason for those stock prices to be there. What is it backed by? The hope and hope? Hope that they will ever attain those values? Hell no. They'll never. The only value a company has is its total asset value plus its potential for future earnings, which you can look at it like like an investment. And these guys, look up the word EBITDA. I forgot what it all stands. Look all those things up. It's a fake. And because most people, I have a stockbroker that when I'm at the coffee shop always comes and says, Berto, I don't know what the day is, but it's coming down. It's coming down. The market's going to crash. And there's nothing holding it up. It's on a dream. So anyhow, what is it that you have to tell these people when they talk, when they try to scare you or say, oh, you're a democratic socialist? You tell them, no, you're an extractive capitalist. And let me tell you what I want. I want free, pay-it-forward college and universities for our students so that they can move forward. And they'll be paying more taxes to pay that back in the future. I want family leave so that, people can go out there and get real jobs and not worry that their kids are going to hold them back. So instead, now we'll start to have kids, something that a lot of people have stopped having because, you know what? They can't afford them. You know why? Because the capitalists have extracted all or most. Right? Tell them that they want the loans forgiven. It's going to increase the economy. Why? All these people that are saddled with these student loans, they can't buy homes. They can't buy cars. They're living back home. They're not circulating monies in the economy. Instead, they're paying back a debt to a bank, which means it's a small amount of people taking cash out of the economy. That's math 101. That's how it works. As these people pay these bills back, right? They're going back to a whole bunch of folk that don't spend money because they spend whatever the hell they want to spend. These loans were, in my opinion, were given fraudulently anyway. And how? And the truth of the matter is, I really don't mind sticking it to the banks. And why don't I mind sticking it to the banks? Because the banks were responsible for having a system that didn't collect taxes so that these kids could go to college economically. So, I would love to see the kids just drop the loan. What I would like to see happen pretty soon, in fact, I would like there to be a consortium of kids throughout the country that come together and say, we are not paying back our student loans. Everybody, if every single American student who owes a student loan, just say, we will not pay this loan at all. None. But it has to be together. Everybody has to be together. If they say that, watch how quickly the government comes in to the defense of the banks who would slide from not having that steady cash flow. It collapsed on itself. We have to understand the power of people. We have to understand how much power we have in this system. Capitalism only succeeds in extracting all your wealth if you are a willful slave to what it stands for. Again, only if you are a willful slave to what it stands for will this stuff continue to do what it does today. So, folks, I really want you to be serious about this. When they start to accuse you, oh, you democratic well, they don't even like to use the democratic portion. They'll use socialist. You start telling them the things that you want, and now they want it too. Don't think they don't. They want it too. But they're going to still try to come back and say, but how are you going to pay for it? There are two answers to that. Every average individual gets taxed on their wealth. You got a home, that's where most of your wealth is. They tax you every year on your home, right? Why is it that somebody who owns stock, they do very little work, a lot of these stockholders, why is it they should be able to make not only income, but a stock appreciation, capital gains, and pay less than the guy who's out there working? Why? This money's interest pays it. That is what our system does. Okay? Now, beforehand, I got to do my quick pick. I always forget this. Folks, please remember this is a progressive show. I need your support. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Again, that is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. Anybody who subscribes to Politics Done Right right now, and by the way, the subscriptions are cheap. Starts at $1.99. Anyway, anybody who subscribes immediately gets access to my book, How to Make America Utopia. I'm on chapter 2. As I write the chapters, I put them online. Again, I repeat, as I write the chapters, I put these chapters online. Moreover, and by the way, chapter 1 and chapter 2 are there already. Secondly, I have a book online. This book is so applicable, and if you really want to know how we are screwed by our current economic system, if you really want to know how we are screwed by our current lobbyists, etc., I mean, in a very easy to read manner, as I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. That book is also online for those who subscribe. You just have to go, if you subscribe to Politics Done Right, you just have to click on my books on egbertowillies.com. And because you're a patron of mine, a patron of Politics Done Right, you get to see this book online as well. Of course, you can pick the book up at Amazon as well. But for now, I would say, we really need a whole lot of subscriptions. We need thousands of low-cost subscriptions. So I want all those. And remember, we are doing an important thing in our society right now. Because a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is not, you're not going to talk about it in this fashion on MSNBC or any other places. Because the establishment, Democrats and Republicans, all of them want to scare you to death because you want too much. They've been cannibalizing our society for decades, but you want too much. It is too much to ask that you get real health care. It is too much to ask that you can send your kids to college affordably. It is too much to ask. Even Bianchi, my friend on the other line that I'm going to go to in a minute, he is talking about vouchers. I don't want vouchers, but we can come to a compromise. Have all kinds of different schools instead of the standard that we have right now, as long as they're either publicly run, because it has to be us, the people, we the people. There's nothing inherently good about the private sector. We have to get away from that lie. The private sector is intent on making profit for the individual in that private sector, corporation, company, or whatever. Don't be fooled by anything else. The private sector isn't benevolent. The government isn't benevolent. Society together, when we work together to be good, that's when we get good. I'm going to go ahead and go to Bianchi right now to see if he wants to add anything to the discussion. And if you want to add anything to the discussion, please call 646-716-5812. Again, that is 646-716-5812. Come on in, my dear friend Bianchi, if you have anything else to say. Otherwise, I have quite a bit more myself to say.
Well, I just got one thing, is that when surveyed and polled, black parents say in the high 70 percentile that they want school choice with vouchers.
Of course.
So I understand your choice, your position, but it's not you that's we're concerning. It's these organizations,
yes,
NAACP and others, that are telling blacks, going along with the school teachers unions and so on and so on, that no, you don't need school choice. That is just as vile as a corporation that's running a traditional school and taking money off the top
Yes,
in profits, but not producing a better product.
Bianchi, as I've told
Thank
you
you.
before, I think you're absolutely right in that statement that you just made there. We have to change the system. But what I ask people like you, Bianchi, is the following. Let's not talk about creating some private entity thinking that it's going to be benevolent and do a better job. Let's clean up our own house. You own your own company. You can be as altruistic as needed in the community to force the local government, the state government, to change the way we do schooling in this country. We know it's detrimental to people of color because people of color generally live in lower taxed areas, and in so doing, they don't get the best teachers. And instead of saying let's qualify teachers better, what happens is supposedly a lot of teachers don't want to work in those areas. Well, how comes we don't do what the capitalists like to do and pay them a hell of a lot of money to work there? I bet you get a whole lot more. But no, those districts are poor, so you can't do that either, right? That's my point. Anyhow, let me continue then.
Well, you can.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead with your next. Go ahead and continue your show. I'm listening. It's interesting.
Okay, great. All right, my dear friends. Now I want to tell a little story because I have a tendency to say something that upsets quite a few people, and I've gotten it in emails, etc. And it mostly upset professionals, right? And the reason it upset professionals is that what I'm saying is I have this statement that I make, and when I say professionals, I mean even folks like Bianchi that owns their own companies, successful companies, and make good money. Because I always say that this country is not a meritocracy. I always say that in this country you must be chosen, right? And they get mad. I went to Harvard, or I went to Yale, or I went to Macomb Business School at the University of Texas, and I went out and I did very well and I worked hard. You worked hard. I don't doubt that. You studied hard. I don't doubt that. Or some other business person that owns a car lot that says, I worked hard. When those other people were watching soaps or watching whatever, I was out there working. You're right, my friend. I agree with you. I agree with all of that. But here's the kicker. I worked hard too, right? And I'm going to use my example so that as a professional myself, so that because this is the example that I know. And not only that, I can also deprecate myself. So here it is. I went through a lot of tribulations I formed several companies, from Car Network to PWL, a company that built a login system for a Chinese company. I was in China for a long time, working with engineers. I'm an engineer by training, and then started to develop software for my own software company. Did very well. Been doing this for 10 years. I'm broke now, folks, so please subscribe. I need your subscriptions. But anyhow, so here's what happened. I developed some software that engineers use all over the place. They use it at Boeing, NASA, and if you pump gas for Texaco sometime or some other all these guys, the back end, that stuff that drives the data from the pump to the registers and so forth, a lot of that was my software, and some of it my hardware. Some of it Jerry and I designed, and we had all of that stuff going. And so we got a company together. We were successful. It's all good. My company. I did it. Right? No. First of all, I gave this little message in an earlier video where I said I went to a public school, the University of Texas at Austin. Great school, the best engineering school in Texas. Right? That's those great professors that you taxpayers, all you Texans paid for. In as much as I had to pay higher because I started as a foreign student, then as an out-of-state student, then as an in-state student. But when I got my naturalization, all that good, my residency, all that good stuff. But anyhow, a lot of that came from the taxpayer. You guys imparted that on me. But not only that, when I got when I started selling and so forth, I realized one thing. There are a lot of other people that could do what I do. There are a lot of other people that can do what Bianchi does. There are a lot of other people that can do all these things. And it's not that we are so good. It's not that I'm so good. It's not that Bianchi's so good. It's not that all these other folks are so good that they had to use us. We were chosen. Sometimes randomly, sometimes for some other reason. But we have to be humble enough to realize we were chosen. Now, why do I talk about chosen in these terms? Because the reason I believe in very strong social safety nets, the reason I believe in having a strong, not only social safety net, but a way to move forward, is because in a capitalist system or a free market system, you have to be chosen, and there are a lot left behind because the whole system cannot take you all. You go to church. Some people go to church. They've heard a lot of singers that are much better than Beyonce. But you cannot have 10 Beyoncés or 50 Beyoncés. There are a lot of people that speak a lot better than Oprah Winfrey. But there can't be 1,000 Oprah Winfreys. The space is not there for them. The space is not there for everybody in their requisite professions, right? So there has to be some off-ramp. There has to be. And that is what we call that social safety net. That is, and I'm not only talking in healthcare, I'm talking in changing professions, I'm talking in a lot of different areas. That is really why you want to have, because there are a lot of good people who didn't get chosen. It's a different way of thinking. It's not an altruistic way of thinking. It's a different way of thinking so that you can realize, first of all, you're not all that. None of us are all that. It is when I dropped the moniker of thinking I was so damn good because I did everything and these things worked, that I was able to say, you know what? This is what has to happen. You have to get rid of self. You have to leave self alone and start thinking about the collective. Self, self never works in the long run. And that is what, in a lot of ways, that is why capitalism has to fail and is failing in the United States of America. And it's going to reach a tipping point, and that tipping point is, unless the things that we are promoting, those of us that call ourselves democratic socialists, we believe in democracy 100%, and we believe in free enterprise 100%. But we don't believe in that extractive nature and that which allows you to accumulate wealth indefinitely, permanently, because that is wealth denied others. That the system has an aberration. That the system is designed that it doesn't have an escape valve, so that when a certain amount of capital accumulates, it goes right back into the economy. That people have the tendency to believe that they really earn that Bezos believe he's really worth $160 billion. It's a mental disorder. If you honestly think the amount of capital in this world owed you is that's a mental problem. Think about it. If you can be honest with yours, if Jeff Bezos can be honest with himself and say, look, he got it legally. Don't get me wrong at all. I'm not going against what this guy earned or what this guy's worth or anything. I mean, he did it legally. He did it within our system. But there's no human being that is even worth $1 billion. It's even worth $50 million. And I'm telling what I'm saying is that is simply a deficiency in our system, and we somehow psychologically believe it is worthy. It is not. Because everything, and people say, well, Egberto, you earned it. I mean, you can't. Let me tell you something. Let me show you. I gave this example to somebody a few days ago. I had a product. It allowed Microsoft Windows to do something it was incapable of doing. It dropped something called RTS signal, and the RTS signal fast enough for an R85 bus to turn around. I wrote the code, and I made that chip do something it wasn't designed to do in software. So I made a lot of money selling that piece of software because some people paid $10,000 for the license, and I was like, wow. And then finally one time I dropped it to $2,500, and I said, okay, I recovered my costs. I got and people say, oh, you're so damn stupid. I'm like, why? Why? Because the market could bear a whole lot more. Oh, really? Okay. What people don't understand is that would have been an extractive nature of myself. And let me explain what I mean. If I sell something for $10,000 and some other corporation buys it for $10,000, it may look good. Okay, I sold it to somebody who could afford the $10,000. But here's the kicker. That company who sells it to company number 3, also, they mark it up and they make a profit on that. And by the time it gets to the consumer, they have to pay so much more for something. So we are taking more out of them to satisfy the few that control the pricing. So by me asking for a hell of a lot up front, down the chain, I have extracted a lot from X, Y, and Z average American citizen. But capitalism doesn't like to see down the third level. Because if they look through the third level, they'll see that, yes, in fact, if it is an extractive method, that's what it does. It gives the people who have pricing power a whip, an extortive whip on the rest of society. That's why you can charge $2 to get a barrel of oil and charge $100 at the market level. And all of us, in effect, are donating monies to the few people that own those corporations. It's not a zero-sum gain. Or rather, it is a zero-sum gain. There's X amount of dollars, and that's what happens. It is hard for the average American to see that because they have been so indoctrinated into thinking the market way. The market has no soul. The market is evil by design. And it is for us to tame the market. And how do we tame the market? It is something called democracy. It is through democratic socialism. That's what I'm talking about. Folks, I need to ask you one more time, please consider becoming subscribers to Politics Done Right. We have a whole lot to talk about, and we talk about this every day. And if you call in and want to talk about it, want to comment, want to disagree, want to agree, want to anything, want to change the subject, that is why we have Politics Done Right. It is your show. By the way, in the next couple of days, we're going to be having a video chat with Zoom, because I promised you a whole lot in my 10-point plan. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright if you want to see the 10-point plan as well. Okay, so please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. You will get access to How to Make America Utopia. My first 2 chapters are done. Just go ahead and sign up. Again, our subscriptions as low as $1.99, so please consider it. But also we have the book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. I promise you, you will learn from that book. You learn the destructive nature of patents. You learn what happened to people who've used patents, etc. I mean, you learn this stuff in a way that you can converse with people. And when they start calling you socialist, you can say, look, what I am is I am for the American people. I am for people in general. That's all you have to do. Be ready. Be prepared. Get that book you can either read it online by subscribing, and I ask you to subscribe. I'll be honest, I need a hell of a lot of subscribers to keep this thing viable. You know, we need to be in DC. I need to be in Austin at the what is it called? South by Southwest. We need to be in a whole lot of these places, putting this message out, getting a whole lot of this out there. In fact, so there's a lot that we have to do. And right now, I'm doing blogging on my own. I'm doing all the shows on producing, getting the guests that are relevant to what we talk about. I need help, and it would be great if you could be a subscriber at patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. And look, you can also give us at give us at PayPal. You can either subscribe to us at PayPal by giving us a monthly, or just give us a one-time and say, I just want to help out Politics Done Right, do that stuff. And that is, if you go to politicsdoneright.com, you can do it there as well. Go to politicsdoneright.com, or you can go to Patreon again, patreon.com/politics done right. I'm going to go over about 2 minutes and want to give Bianchi a chance to just say goodbye, or if he wants to add anything. Bianchi, would you like to say something real quickly before I chime out of here?
Well, goodbye. Good luck with your profession.
Thank you so kindly, my friend. And you keep up. You make sure and keep building what it is that you build. Okay, brother?
That's good.
All right, take care now. All right, folks, we're going to be closing this down in a minute, but I want to tell you, I haven't completed the blog of the week that I am reading today. I'm going to put it out there, and I'll put it in the notes as soon as I get by that. Look, these are important times, and we have a whole lot to do, and we cannot further allow the plutocracy to do what it's doing to the average citizen. Like I said, look at your bank account. Look at your stock portfolio if you have one. Most don't, but look at, if you have one, look at it. Look at your 401ks. A lot of people have them, but most don't. We are in dire straits, and these people continue to blow smoke up you know what. Let's not allow that to continue. Let's get real. Please, let's get real. And let's not fear names that people are going to call us. They're indoctrinating people left and right. And I want to go one more minute and say one thing. And I want to talk to my white brothers, white men. Brothers, I want to tell you something. There is a concerted effort to make you believe that somehow this new economy is detrimental to you. Somehow what's going on is the fault of everybody else, and that you are under attack. That is by design. That is a concept that will work if you allow it to work. We all have to work together. There's nobody going after anybody. We believe in all being equal, not equal access. Not that everybody needs to be equal. Be equal if you work hard, etc. But we want everybody to have equal access to success. Again, that is equal access to success. Brothers, do not fall for the trap. Do not fall for that, and they want you to have your ball on everybody else, on women, on people of color. They want you to be mad at them. And from what I've been getting a whole lot of mothers. It's not just one, several have been telling me things that's been happening with their sons. I even got a Facebook message a few weeks ago from one that said, is it possible for you to talk to him? He actually listens to you, but the words that's coming out of his mouth these days scare me. My white brothers, it's a sham. It really is. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. We'll stay together and work together, man. And we're going to solve this stuff. Let's keep our eye on the ball. This is not a race thing. This is not a culture thing. This is a plutocracy thing. This is the thing we're a few. And by the way, that plutocracy ain't all white. Bob Johnson is a billionaire, and he ain't all white. He ain't white at all. And he wants your ass too. This is a plutocracy thing. And this is what we have to mitigate, the plutocracy. Sorry for going over too long. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Love you all. I beg that you go to patreon.com/politics done right and subscribe very cheaply, or go to politicsdoneright.com and become a member. Love you guys. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, You can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.